we're having this conversation, and I was essentially appealing to the leaders there in India, and I say, guys, we need to really try to give people opportunity. Stats tell us that men, even if they're 60% qualified, will apply for the job, but women really would like to be 100%, 150% for us to feel really assured that we can do it. So even if you see somebody that has good prospect, even if they're like 80%, have a chat and then take it from there. We're not saying hire people that are not, that don't have the skills, but just give people opportunity, because that's something that women, I think, naturally will suffer from. And again, we can dissect why women don't apply for certain jobs or why they do. And one of my colleagues on the panel said, "We hire women. I mean, we hired you, didn't we?"
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Welcome to 99 Humans. My name is Jeff Lakusta, curious coach and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, striving to understand how little things generate big impact.
And I'm Nadia, Carta, tech executive and lifestyle coach with a mission to transform lives and corporations by kindling hearts to generate a zeal for life.
Each week, we investigate stories about the human side of leadership to re-energize your spirit and help you become a stronger leader.
Because the reality is that leadership is messy, goofy, challenging, but always human.
Thanks for spending time with us today. Let's dive in.
We are here with a woman that in my phone is saved as Diana Red Hot Dress.
That's so blessed.
I don't know if you're wondering how she got this nickname for me, but she's absolutely fabulous. And I'm so grateful that she blocked the time to be with us. Hi.
Hi. Thank you both. It's a real honor to be here. Thank you.
And of course, Jeff is here. Hey, Jeff.
I am here, and I'm excited because, Diana, you work in the healthcare industry, and you have quite a fascinating background. Just to kick off, we'd love to hear, what are you up to right now? What's keeping you busy?
Oh my God. Okay. So I do so much. I think Nadia knows some, but let me make it a little personal. So, born and raised in Nigeria, moved to the UK, went to school, got 2 degrees, was introduced to an Nigerian American, moved here. And so my background was that I studied law, and then I ended up in sort of project business management. And right now, I'm fortunate enough to run 2 startups. One I'm actually transitioning out of. I was sort of texting Nadia about this one, just sold it, which is a good thing. And then the other one, I do a lot of consulting around healthcare. But before that, I worked with Morgan. I was at a consulting company doing a lot of work around sort of strategy and transformation, business management, the CRO space. So it's a lot. But you know what I really like that defines me is some of the work that I do outside of sort of like work or business. So I like to say that I'm like a social impact curator. I work with, I pretty much take on every project. So I like to work where I feel like there's a need. So I usually like to help people, speak for people that I feel like their voice is a little lower than ours. So right now, besides all those things that I do, I'm curating programs for special needs kids, working with some districts, my district and some other districts. I just wake up and I have these ideas, reach out to people, drive my friends with me as well. And we just go volunteer and just do what we have to do. And I also do a lot of work in Nigeria as well. I actually just completed a project in Nigeria where we sort of helped 43 kids get them back to school, buy them clothes, shoes, just whatever needs to be done. I don't ask for donations for these things. I usually just do them personally, especially with my husband Chike, if I'm doing a lot of stuff like back in Nigeria. But here, I like to rope my friends in to volunteer their time and help curate whatever I'm curating or design whatever program I'm designing. So I know there's a lot. So.
Wow, I'm so impressed by all of your work, Diana. So Diana and I met because we both were on stage for an event at the Stevens Technology Institute. And I was really amazed by you, Diana, for many reasons. And as a woman, I really loved how you embrace who you are and how you show up with your full, authentic self.
Yeah.
And I really, really loved your energy that day on how you encouraged all of the students to really go and get what made them happy and everything. I'm wondering because as you talk about what you do and everything, everything feels so shiny. And this
Right.
is 99 Humans, and we uncover what are the messiness and challenges. So, has there ever been a moment in your life and your career where you were busy doing what you love and at the same time you had to overcome really big obstacles?
How much time do we have? So, listen, no, I think like you both, because you guys are also very distinguished. I think I have so many stories, but one story that comes to mind, and I would love to really hear your take on this one because it might not be the obvious. That really sort of touched me. Happened, I think it was 2019. I had just joined a consulting company, and we went to India for a leadership conference. So you know how you do the offsites, the leadership offsite. So we all went, all the senior leaders, and it was a great opportunity to meet the leaders in India as well. So off we went. I was the only girl as usual. Off we went, got there. Day one, we were pretty much trying to keep it very sort of low pressure, relaxed. And all of a sudden somebody said, hey, let's do like a little panel because, you know, we have Diana's here. She's new to the organization. We have the head of HR. We also had somebody who was, I think, heading operations in India as well. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. Let's do it. And so we jumped in, and I think one of the conversations that came about was giving women opportunity, like hiring women and making space. And the feedback I'd gotten before then as well was there was a certain reluctance to hire women. And listen, it's technology. It's always going to be that problem that technology will always have. Granted that there's a shortage of women, right? Right, Jeff? But also that people typically like to work with and hire people that look like them or that sound like them. So naturally we gravitate towards. So I say this just to say, I do try to think fairly, right? So anyway, we're having this conversation, and I was essentially appealing to the leaders there in India, and I say, guys, we need to really try to give people opportunity. Stats tell us that men, even if they're 60% qualified, will apply for the job, but women really would like to be 100%, 150% for us to feel really assured that we could do it. So even if you see somebody that has good prospect, even if they're like 80%, have a chat and then take it from there. We're not saying hire people that don't have the skills, but just give people opportunity because that's something that women, I think, naturally will suffer from. And again, we can dissect why women don't apply for certain jobs or why they do. And one of my colleagues on the panel said, we hire women. I mean, we hired you, didn't we?
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yes.
That's like the classic stereotype of a
Yes.
bad response.
Yes. Listen, this was like 50 leaders in India on this panel with another woman said that. I'm telling you, that room was silent like I never heard it. And you could see like the one of the ladies was really very quick. And I'm sure you can figure out which one based on the profession. It was very quick to kind of jump in. And I said, hey, listen, I hear you, but I know that I'm very qualified to be in this position. Because of my background, because of what I bring to the table, I believe that I would have been hired whether I was a man or a woman based on my qualifications. And I'm absolutely confident that I wasn't just hired because I was a woman. And so then the other person spoke up and said, oh, and really kind of gave a beat into it, like, oh, we shouldn't say things like that, blah, 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 whatever. So anyway, that happened. And a lot of people came to me afterwards and they were like, oh my God, you handled this so well. We're so sorry this happened. I'm like, it's fine. We don't have to like come to blows. We can all have conversation. We can agree to disagree or say in poor taste to Jeff's point, but you know, it is what it is. What I did do, just to wrap up the story, was when we got back to back to the US. I did reach out to that colleague actually. I said, hey, let's have a chat, and we jumped on a call, and I said, I just wanted to share how what you said made me feel, especially in the context of the conversation that we were having. Because we were saying, even if people have 80% of the skill set, and that's the time that you chose to jump in and say, well, we hired you. So it could mean so many things. And so I shared with her how I felt. And then she said, you know what? I think she had a conversation with one or two people as well. Sorry, I apologize. That wasn't my intention. I really was just trying to say we're very much open to it. And listen, we became very good work buddies. I actually invited her. I always create things. I'm sure you figured that out by now. I created a Women Leaders Roundtable in that organization. It was 5,000 of us. So I called all the women leaders and said, hey, listen, first of all, there's very few women leaders. And then how do we help the upcoming women leaders? Because some of the feedback was there wasn't a lot of promotion and everything. So it was really for the women leaders to work for the juniors, not that we were creating a sort of elite group of, it was very clear what the goal of the organization was. So I invited her actually to be part of it and to really help me lead sort of the Asia arm of it. And we still talk till this day. And I would say we're work friends. But yeah, so like I said, I have so many, but I thought that might intrigue you guys.
I mean, listen, this is such an incredible start. I mean, I don't want to say that I'm not surprised,
Right.
but at the same time, so like, what goes on in people's mind when they make this comment? I'm partially debating between them not knowing what to say, but
Right.
also ignorance is not allowed anymore, because if someone wants to upskill themselves, there are so many ways. So
Right.
you said that now I mean, you were amazing in reaching out and trying to bury the hatchet, what you can say, and now you're friends and all of it. Did you guys ever went back to that moment and say, hey, did this person ask for more support in getting ready? How did you all surpass it eventually?
It's funny. One of the things that I think really as part of my position, it was like the usual fancy title, head of strategy, which really meant that I did everything. But so I started to really pay an interest in our numbers around hiring, because that was like, to me, alarm bells, to be honest. If that's how we felt. So really, I got to do a lot of work around attrition, around hiring. Very interested in why women were leaving. Like, I'll have a chat with them, all done informally, confidentially, so we can see how we can keep them. So I did a lot of work around that as well. And then I also mandated, at least for the North America region, that we should have 50-50 hiring, which was hard for them. Like, literally. Initially, some of the hiring managers didn't even want to follow it. And then we had to start rejecting their recs and saying, no, how many women did you interview for this role? Did you actually try to get the best? Because we obviously want the best person for the job. But we did recognize that there was some bias, right, for lack of a better word, towards hiring women. So we did a lot of work around that, including the fact that I eventually then said, okay, actually, we need to have women among the interviewers. So even if you're not part of that team, because it might be a team where they're all men, it is what it is. I would give you access to women that could help interview as part of your process, even if it's a cultural interview, just to make sure that everybody all eyes. So we did a lot. So we didn't sort of go back to address your question directly, talk about that specific incident again. But I definitely made sure that I put the focus on that, because that really concerned me, and that really made me then pay attention. And so naturally, I kind of just moved into that role. I ended up becoming head of diversity, as well as the other positions that I had, just because I was really paying a lot of attention. And kudos to my boss at the time. He just let me be and just do what I needed to do. So he actually supported all my little projects and whims and everything.
Diana, I definitely commend you for handling that situation well. But just in listening to your story, I mean, there's actually like 5 or 6 flags all wrapped up into the one, right? I mean, you said, well, of course I go to this room and I'm the only woman. And then you have the obvious event happen. And then you call a group of leaders together, of which you acknowledge there's very few women leaders across the company. I mean,
Correct.
so many things that I hear you, as a man, just letting roll off your back. And I think that really, I want to acknowledge that you have developed what sounds like, and I think women in tech or women in male dominated
Yeah.
industries in general have to develop,
Mm.
unfortunately. But I also recognize that you don't work for that company anymore.
Correct.
And I'm curious how those dots connect or don't connect between the experiences that you're sharing and your choice to eventually move on.
Hmm. Oh, Jeff, you're so good with your questions. I mean, you both ask great questions, but Jeff, come on. Okay, no. So let me answer it this way. Yes, I think that it was a different experience for me. First of all, if you look at my background, that was my first foray into consulting. So I'd never done consulting before then. It was something that I wanted to do. I'm big on lists, big on 5, 10 year plans. One of those people. So it was always at some point that I wanted to do that. So I went, I did it, I saw it. Perhaps I didn't necessarily like what I see. So that was definitely one reason. And then the other reason was, yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I had to do a lot. Just so you know, I was replaced by 4 people when I left. This is a true story.
Wow.
I was replaced by 4 people. So there was a lot going on. And my boss at the time, bless him, when I was leaving, said, "Oh, we didn't realize how much you were doing until you handed in your resignation." Because I resigned, and it was because we bought the franchise. It was to go run this particular franchise, and that's really what started my foray into entrepreneurship. It was really a franchise that we bought, and then I started to do all the things and do consulting and all the other stuff that I do now. So, but yeah, no, to I don't want to sidestep your question, but yes, I think a lot of the experience that I had, particularly around that period, just made me feel like I had to change it, which was why I really put in a lot of programs and effort into doing so many things, into like changing the diversity numbers, the hiring numbers, and pushing it, because I just didn't want to just pretend like I didn't know there was a problem. I'm a problem. I'm one of those weird people. I have to solve problems. It's like I see a problem, I feel like it's my responsibility to solve it. So I try to solve it. But yeah, it definitely pushed me to say, hey, you know what? I think it's time to go do my own thing. And to your point, even as I'm looking forward to transitioning, perhaps back even into the corporate world, I'm definitely not transitioning back into certain type of environments if I can. But I think if I do find myself that this is what I really want to impress upon you, I will always try to make a change. I usually don't just sort of roll with it. I always challenge the status quo and say, hey, this is not good enough. That's why I said, how much time do we have? Because I have so many stories, but we'll leave it at that one.
This conversation is bringing in me a reflection that I have been doing more and more lately. To your point about tech being male dominated, and we can even say white male dominated without question. I lately was a participant in 2 large global events. I won't mention which one they were, but I was really taken aback by the disproportion of the female representation.
Yeah.
And what took me aback was how little attention there was from some of the men in the space about the issue.
Yes.
Right, to the point that a man, so when I raised it, because it was so flabbergasting, I raised it in a conversation. I got this reaction from one of the men that said, but women are nurturing and caring. I'm sure that they don't want to be in this space.
Wow.
And this truly ignite the fire on me, and
Mm.
I had a very abrupt reaction. I'm very passionate. Fire is my second element, and I had to speak up. However, and this is where I'm going with this comment. I was a little puzzled because I said, oh gosh, maybe with my reaction, I was hurting this sales relationship that was going on between these 2 men.
Mm.
The 2 men were having a sales conversation, and I was brought into the conversation, and I was like, you know what? I have to leave this meeting because I don't feel welcomed in this
Mm,
conversation. And then
mm,
I was like, well, maybe I jeopardized the business. And
mm.
I'm constantly battling, Diana, in this, because do we stay quiet because we don't want to hurt the business, or do we hold the parties accountable in doing business with grace and say, hey, everybody, there's an issue here? Like, if we want our two companies to work together and do business, we have to acknowledge that there's a problem, and
Correct.
we need to change the narrative. So, it's a very thin line between speaking up because we are the party involved, and
Yes.
at the same time putting the business in jeopardy. So what is your thoughts about this?
No, no, really, great question. I think that you're right. I think there's always going to be that sort of challenge and trying to find that balance. I was fortunate that in that organization that I was in, my immediate boss and the leadership around me had sort of a good team of I think 4 people. They were open to listen to me. They didn't always say yes to everything that I said, but they hired me for a reason, which I tell them, they tell me. And so I think from the very beginning, going back to the point that you raised, I think when we were doing the introductions, because I'm always very authentic. This is me. Like, this is how I come to work. Like, I'm not different. So I'll tell you as it is. I'll tell you if it's good. I'll tell you if it's bad. So I think acknowledging the good, but also acknowledging the bad is a way for us to make progress. So I think you do have to speak up. Obviously, one will say, hey, this is a work environment. We don't want to be unprofessional. Again, we can go and talk about what that the definition of unprofessional is. But I think, yeah, I always try to say that with grace, with knowledge, with information, with data, with whatever I can say. So if I go to you and say, hey, listen, I want to run a program for women to learn more about benefits so they can be more financially empowered, because it appears based on my conversations with women, they're not aware that they can run their own 401k, they can do a lot. I go there with sort of the data, the information to back that up. And for example, that was something that I actually worked on. So that's a real scenario. And so it's usually very hard for people to say no to me, because they know I'm like, I'm gonna keep coming back. So yeah, so we had to have very many difficult conversations. Even I remember a very difficult conversation even with my boss in terms of the expectations about me, because I think I'm very hardworking. I work long hours. Until I met my husband, I thought I was the most hardworking person that I know. And then I met Chiki, and I was like, okay, he works 22 out of 24 hours. I can't top
It
that.
doesn't have to be a contest on that one.
Right. So it's like, okay, he works harder than me. But so the point was, I was putting in like all this sweat, and then it just looked like it wasn't enough. So we even had to have an uncomfortable conversation about that to say, hey, what are the expectations? Where do we draw the line? I have kids. There's XYZ. So, but I had to have that conversation. And I remember I specifically chose when I had it, the time that I had it. I knew it was going to be on a walk. He's going to listen to this podcast now and crack up. I shared my frustration, so he had to listen to me. Then we had the conversation the next day, and he actually was able to propose and say, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you work this way? So I think that we just have to face it. And I know it's uncomfortable, like what happened with you, but trust me, it does resonate. But we have to, I think, just face it head on. But I usually go with a solution. So it's less of saying this is the problem, but to say, hey, there's a problem, but I think I would like to run this program. Let's start with North America for XYZ reason. Because of XYZ, this is the outcome I'm expecting. And I'll come back and tell you how that first program went. I usually did. And then now I say, hey, now you need to give me money to bring somebody from outside to talk to the employees about this, and let's do. So I kind of go about it that way. And I, I think for me, especially in the last role that I was in, they just became very used to me, because they know, like, this is Diana. Like, she cares. She's gonna fight till the end. So.
How has this experience of being the only one in the room shaped your leadership style today?
Oh, that's a good one. I think one of the things I've been thinking about myself, like when you think, like, how would you describe yourself? Like, what makes you think? And I think that one of the things that resonate with me is like leading with, obviously, authenticity, like Nadia said, but leading with purpose and kindness. That's how it's shaped me. Like, I realized that we have to be kind to people. We have to be kind to ourselves.
How did you get that? I love it, but you told such a Hard. That story is one of hard and resilience and challenge. And your lesson is about kindness.
Yes.
That feels like a bit of a twist to me.
Yes, because you know what? It would be so easy for me to alienate people and say, "Oh, you did this to me, you said this to me, and so I'm not going to engage you." I'm not. But I think because of the purpose, so that's why it's leading with purpose and kindness. I know what my purpose is, which is to make a difference and speak for the people whose voices are lower than mine. And I say that because at certain times, in certain situations, somebody's voice might be lower than mine. It doesn't mean in other areas it might not be. They might not be in that sort of the position, the level to be able to have access to certain things in leadership. So for me, in order to accomplish that, I have to be kind to them, to myself, but really knowing that I have to lead with purpose. So all the hardships that I've had, I mean, one of the reasons why I spoke up in that room and I continue to speak up was that many years ago, I've been in rooms, again, the only woman in the room. I think I was a project manager at the time in tech. This was in London. And my boss asked me a question. And before I could respond, two people answered on my behalf. And what happened was my boss then said, I think what Diana is trying to say is, and I never forgot that. See, I even remembered what he said because I said to myself, oh my God, because they were talking over me before, and I just thought, wow, the question was directed at me. It wasn't directed at you. Why did you feel the need to jump in? And so, or when I've been in a room and this happened as well, got into a conference room and this guy looks at me and he says, oh, can you make us some tea? Yes.
Whoa.
And I said, well, actually, because we had
This
this.
pisses me off on so many levels.
Yeah. And I said, well, actually, because I'm going to chair this meeting, can you make us some tea?
What the F?
Because he just assumed because I was the only girl that
Wow.
naturally I should be the one to
Ah.
make the tea. He didn't even know who I was.
That's next level. I mean, one of the things that I witness happen quite a bit, unfortunately, is going to the one woman to be the note taker.
Yes.
But to go to the one woman to make the tea, I mean,
Yes.
these are both horrible, but it's the same
Yes.
vein, right? It's
Yes.
different sounds of the same sexism at play.
You
Yes.
know why I'm grateful that you're bringing this up, Diana, and please keep me honest. I think we believe that those things don't happen anymore.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
yet, here we are with you. We are recording this on September 29, 2023, sharing stories that still continue to happen. And the reason why we have to speak about it is because we still have those challenges.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yes. Yes. No, I talk to a lot of people that I am fortunate enough to mentor and to your point, it happens. I think I was trying to refer somebody to you the other day because she's pretty much going through a very similar situation as well. Being the only woman, this was not even in tech. I think this is an investment banking. But being the only woman, the way she's spoken to, and to your point, that story that I told happened, 10, 15 years ago. But based on the conversation I just had with her and that I've experienced, even being running my own business, it still happens. I've had people join calls with me and they texting and doing all kinds of stuff, and it's like, oh, they're just very dismissive about you. But I personally, I try not to take it personal
Which
because
is
I feel like
amazing. So here's as we approach the end, I mean, there's still two questions I want to ask about. One is around your self-care routines, right? Like, how do you take care of your soul and
mm,
your brain? Because look, I get it that you want to be the one that is showing up with a solution. You want to be the one that is coming up stronger. All of that, Diana, you cannot fool me
mm,
because I know that all of this is draining, is
yes,
tiring, and then you're exhausted.
yes,
So, how do you fill your cup, girl?
girl, that's a good question. So I'm fortunate enough that my faith anchors me. I'm very proud that I'm a Christian. My background is Pentecostal, and my faith anchors me. Sometimes, even if it's, I was saying to Jeff, I think before we started, that I listen to a lot of sort of podcast and audio stuff as I drive, because I'm always going somewhere busy, running around. So I even listening to music. I like to go away, take some time away. I'm fortunate that my husband actually is very understanding and nurturing, because he always like, oh my God, what are you working on now? What have you come up with? And so he really allows me and gives me the space and says, okay, fine. You want to go do this? You want to go work with kids K to 12 and help them? I'll take care of the kids. Or I'll do this. Or I'll do that. So I think my faith's very important. I really channel that. But, I love to take care of myself. I like to, even things like going to the nail salon, I like to go to the best nail salon just because they'll give the best massages. So I do all those little extra things. I have the spa membership with the spa. I go as often as I can, not as often as I would like. Go on vacations, always fly first class. Whatever I can do just to give myself a break. But it's a lot, to your point. But I'm grateful that I have a good village. Never underestimate the importance of a good village. The friends that I have, my family, my sisters, best sisters ever, that really check on me, like you said, and be like, how are you? What are you doing? I also happen to be doing a business, like an MBA right now, Jeff. So they were like, did you study today? Wow. Like they're like on me, and okay, just go take 2 hours away, do this, do that. So, but it's not easy. That said, let me finish with this. There's a method to my madness. So I turned down a lot of speaking and a lot of stuff. I actually recommend other people sometimes when I'm approached. I try to do a certain number once a quarter, because I sit on a few boards. I do some stuff in my church. So I actually intentionally turn down things. Just
I think that boundary setting is easier said than done, right? It's one of the classic things that we all know. Gosh, I need to say no. But kudos to you, because A, having the opportunities that you have doesn't come easy, but B, saying no to them is probably even harder, but it's good for you. And I love that you're calling that out.
I do say that because I follow you on social media, your parties and outfits are the best. Oh, so please extend an invitation to Jeff and I for one of your next celebrations. They look absolutely fantastic.
I will. And you must come, and it'll be fun. Because again, anything that's worth doing at all, it's one of my quotes, is worth doing well. So
I love it.
You have to do it well.
So we always... Oh, go.
No, we probably are asking the same question, but you have dropped so many gems for us throughout this podcast. But when you reflect on this 30 minutes, reflecting on the experience, the story that you just shared, right, what advice do you have for our listeners who are leaders out there trying to navigate this space? Many of them are women facing the same challenges that you described.
Yes.
What advice would you give?
Thank you. First of all, I think one of the journeys that I had to go through, and I'm sure you guys can relate, was to find out who I am. Like, who am I? Like, to understand myself. This self-awareness, self-mastery, it's actually a thing. I actually went on that journey because we make mistakes, we fail. I really wanted to understand myself. So I think the first thing is to know who you are. Because I always talk to people, like Nadia said, about, hey, be yourself, be your authentic self, bring yourself to the table. But if you don't know yourself, what self are you bringing to the table? Which version of you are we going to get today, right? And being able to manage your feelings, your emotions, and how you look at things, and understanding what your journey is, what your purpose is. So I actually went again on that journey a couple of years ago, and really it's been revealing. I learned so much from it. And even now, my goal to go into public service and really serve people in the next sort of 7 to 10 years, by God's grace, came from that journey that I went, actually, to really fully understand myself. So I think go on a self-awareness journey, try to understand yourself, know who you are. And then also, if somebody offers you a great opportunity and you don't know how to do it, say yes and learn how to do it. Richard Branson said that. That's not my quote. Really throw yourself into things where possible. I know, especially for the women listeners, there's a lot more going on if you have kids, so much. But where possible, really try to seek knowledge, learn new things, try new things, because you never know what you might discover along the way.
I really love all of this. I'm so happy that I decided to join, even if I have this very
I'm so
weird
happy that
voice for
you
all
joined.
of the listeners.
I
Diana, where can people find you and where can they follow your adventures and be part of your world?
Okay, so LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'm not the most sort of social poster type of person. I get people kicking me up and saying, one of my stepsisters said that to me the other day, like, oh my God, you need to post more and all this stuff you do, you don't share about it. I'm like, no, it's just not me. But LinkedIn is where you can find me. And people do reach out to me on LinkedIn and I do try to respond actually, especially like most of the time when I do like a speaking engagement, a lot of people send me messages. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. There's a few things that we're working on, actually working on my own website and trying to set up now my NGO because I do so many things and people just put it on an NGO. So there's a dianaagu.org. This should be live. If it's not live, coming soon. So much little stuff happening, but reach out to me on LinkedIn and happy to connect.
More
We will
power
put
to you.
this in the show notes. Certainly include the link to that website. Very exciting. Diana, honestly, it's an honor to get to meet you for the first time. I know you and Nadia are close already, but
She's,
what an amazing story. You're
she's
incredible.
no, bless. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the honor. Thank you. Thank you guys.
Thank you for joining us. We will send you the episode for your review before publishing, and we wish you an incredible Friday and weekend.
Yes, likewise, guys. And Nadia, I hope you feel better. I'm gonna
Oh,
check up on you. Take care.
please. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Jeff. So nice to meet
Bye.
you.
You too.
Oh, I really love Diana.
Amazing story. I mean, very right. We started with a bang to hear something that is very sadly familiar, but another woman in a male dominated industry with a direct run in with sexism impacting so many different pieces and ultimately a decision to leave the company.
I mean, seriously, that's why I love to participate to events when I get asked to speak, because chances are that there will be other like-minded folks that I want to connect with and extend my network. So I'm so glad for the Stevenson College and Arisa. Shout out to you for asking me to speak together with Diana.
Hmm. Well, so Nadia, what are you taking away from that conversation?
Ooh, I have two, but I'll go with my first one, and then I'll hope that you'll say what was my second one.
All right,
So
let's see if we align. Yeah.
okay, so when she said that for doing all of this, it takes a village. It truly does. And for me, this was an incredible reminder that especially those of us that are busy creating more platforms and that we don't stop at our daily job, but we want to do more and we feel this call for a purpose and we want to create more greatness, we have to surround ourselves with people that are lifting us and that are reminding us that we also need to take time to fuel our own cups. And so when she mentioned her girlfriends or her faith, I mean, you and I spoke in this podcast a lot about our spiritual practices, and her husband is such a good reminder that in this life, we are not alone. And we don't have to go through all of this alone. We need to make sure that we continue to build a village around us. And as I came back from an incredible event last week where I presented my 11 steps to spark your zeal. When I mentioned one of my steps, which is build a board of zeal, which is this concept of having a network of cheerleaders lifting you up and all of that, it's very, very important because we're humans. We're going to have the low moments, we're going to have the challenging moments. And having a friend of someone that we can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, can you just remind me my purpose and my greatness? That can go a long way. So hearing Diana saying this as well really brought me validation that we really need to keep this top of mind. And Jeff, you are part of my board of zeal because
And
you
you're a
always
part of
remind me.
mine. And I love that so much, Nadia, because as coaches, I think we experience the other side of this quite a lot, right? When people are having those low moments, it's ironically when you feel the most alone. It's when you forget to contact others and you end up really in this solo spiral. And so building that board of zeal, building a group of supporters around you, that is so important. And I love that as well. So let's see if I pick up on your other point. I don't know, but what I really enjoyed was just that, I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but it's a reminder of the fact that these sorts of things still happen in the society we're so proud, in quotes, of all the progress we've made. Now, the fact I even had to Google this may be part of this, but women in the US got the right to vote in 1919, which was only 104 years ago, which now that's probably 2 lifespans, but there are people who live past 104. That means arguably in one lifespan, we didn't even allow women to vote in this country that we're in right now. And I know the story was in India, but there's some of that is important grounding, because it kind of makes sense through that lens where you go, gosh, there's a lot of progress still to be made, because it wasn't all that long ago that things looked completely different. And I think it's that short-term memory that is part of the human condition that makes it so possible for it to drag out and extend for way longer than it should, and for people to make comments like, women are nurturing, won't you make the tea? Well, we hired you. So many examples of really horrible things that create a lot of anxiety, a lot of added work, a lot of added stress that's just not fair. And it's a good reminder that we all need to be more aware of that and be allies, because what we didn't talk about but came up for me as the man listening to both of your stories was, imagine if there was an ally in the room and it wasn't up to you to play the waffling back and forth game of, should I do this or should I do that, because someone outside of that was able to interject and get back on course. That's really the job to be done. It shouldn't be up to you or Diana to make the right moves. It should be up to an ally who is outside of the experience. And I hope someone will be the ally for me when I need it, and I want to be the ally for somebody else.
Listen, I know that you are an ally for many, because we spoke also on this show about the many times that you were an ally. So I'm very grateful for your work. And I really appreciate that you brought this up, because if you are in a position of power, whatever power you have, it is imperative that you pave it forward. Now, sadly, not so many lead with this spirit. We can always continue pushing. And I appreciated what Diana said. I said, I always show up with a solution. And so this is a good reminder of our purpose to continue pushing and come together for a greater world, so that our children and whomever is after us can find a better space. My heart is full today.
Energized by that conversation. If you enjoyed that conversation, please be sure to give us 5 stars. Share the episode with a friend. It really does make a difference to us. www.99humans.com has all of our links. Nadia, I hope you feel better and you're back to full health after the weekend.
Thank you. I'll leave it with this. I was craving to have some quiet time, and today the sky is pouring rain. So this is a message from the universe telling me, just stay home and take care of yourself.
Get back in bed. I love it.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Jeff.
Bye.